I want to show how you can get the number of physical processors, cores, and logical processors using C#. So I have an empty console application open here. So I'm just going to come in first and add a reference to an assembly that I need, system.management. And use the namespace. Go into main. And so the way we can get the number of physical CPUs attached to the motherboard is to query this information from Windows using an interface called WMI. So the way you can do that is to loop over results that are returned from this management search object searcher. So the constructor of this object is where you pass in your WMI query. So the query that we'll want is to select the number of processors from Win32 computer system. Call get method on this. Oops, my fault. So new. There we go. Call the get method here. On this. And here's where we can actually write out our results to show that it works. And another statement just to hold the console window open so it doesn't close immediately when I run this in debugging. So if I run this, we should see 1, which is the number of physical CPUs that my machine has. So there it is, 1, so that's right. So what you can do to get the number of cores of the system is pretty much the same thing as query WMI. The query is a little bit different and you have to actually count the number of cores coming back. But it's really easy. What you can do is just, in this case, I'll just set up a temporary variable, call it numCores, set it to 0, and set up the same kind of loop. So we'll want to select number of cores from Win32 processor this time, instead of Win32 computer system. So we'll call .get on it. Oops. And all you want to do is just keep incrementing the numCores variable or whatever variable you have, or however you're storing this information each time you're looping through this. So very simple, just numCores equals. Just need to parse this out. Number of cores, make sure it's a string for the parse method. And I'll write this out to the console so we can see that our result is correct and working. So 4, which is correct. So I have an i7 4770K right now, so I do actually have 4 physical cores inside of my CPU, so that looks right. And the last thing that you might want to do as far as getting this kind of information is looking at the logical processors. So logical processors takes into account your CPU and the number of cores it has, but also the number of I guess really logical cores that you have available, or that the system sees to use. So a good example of explaining this easily is that a lot of Intel's processors have something called hyperthreading, where it basically presents itself to the operating system as more cores than it really has internally. So for example, let's say you have 4 cores and your processor has hyperthreading. So what you'll really have is 8, because you'll get 2 per physical core, and your operating system will, the processor will show that to the operating system as 8 total cores, where really 4 of them are logical. So Anyway, let's just go ahead and do this. So this one's much easier. All you need to do is just use the environment dot processor count property. Set this after number of cores. So once we run this, we should see 8 for my CPU specifically. So yep, one physical core, one physical CPU attached to the motherboard, 4 physical cores, and 8 logical processors or cores. Just right. So really easy. WMI makes things pretty easy and consistent to get this information. One thing I've noticed about WMI that stands out immediately is that the initial startup performance of it is kind of slow. So like the first time that you set this up and query it, you'll get a bit of a delay, but afterwards getting the values and doing future queries is much faster. So I hope this helped. I thought this was a really nice, clean way to get this information using C# and .NET. Thanks.